Have you ever run out of cash? Ever wonder why the amount of money you used to fill your fridge with goods last year isn't the same amount of money that you would need to buy those goods today? This is scary, and it's not because there's some reverse tooth fairy that's swooping in to steal your money and leave you with her teeth. I mean, let's face it, that only happens in my nightmares. This is a result of a process that I'll be explaining in this video. So today, we'll be discussing the Consumer Price Index, also known as a CPI, and what happens when it goes up. By the way, if you're a subscriber, you're gonna love this because I really go into detail and I got some treats sprinkled throughout this video. Consumer Price Index, also known as CPI, is a monthly release of calculated figures that show the change in prices of goods purchased by consumers. It's a statistical estimate that's put together using the prices of a sample of items. The list of sample items is called a market basket. And sadly, it's not an actual basket. You can't really take it on a picnic with some fruit and cheeses and pastries. Oh, I could really go for a croissant right now, and some cupcakes. It's a fixed set of goods and services that's used to track the inflation and deflation of money in the economy. The basket is made up of basic human goods like food items and furniture. Many countries track this change monthly, and some do it quarterly. But all in all, every country in the world understands the importance of CPI. Let's imagine for a moment that there's a country in the world that doesn't actually track CPI. Losers! Their economy would have entered a recession without them even knowing. This is because CPI tracks the rise and fall of purchasing power, tracks the inflation of goods and services, and can help you know what went wrong if you're keenly observant. And as a side note, let me tell you, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, I'd like to urge you to go ahead and click that subscribe button below. Also click on that bell beside it so you can feel like you're playing the bells in the choir. Wow, my audience is so talented. And don't forget to give that like button a pound! Well, what's inflation? And why is it so important that it needs to be tracked? And why can't I stop sending letters to Netflix to tell them to release season 2 of Squid Game? Inflation is a general rise of prices of goods in the economy which reduces the purchasing power of currency so that it can be used for less than it was in the past. Its extreme opposite is called deflation, and that isn't any better. Hey, quick question. Why did the balloon store go out of business? Because of the cost of inflation. Inflation isn't entirely a bad thing. Some banks and institutions even make room for it in their plan. They expect that they can have a certain percentage of inflation. However, it becomes a problem when it goes past that plan and percentages rise higher than expected. Inflation is caused by many contributing factors, but to sum it up, there are 3 main categories. The first category is demand pull inflation. This is inflation that happens in a particular region or place because consumers' demands are higher than the supply of goods and services. It's like when I can't stop buying beef empanadas from stewer shops and everyone around town starts complaining that I'm causing prices to go up in a local empanada market. The second is called cost push inflation. Again, that's cost push inflation. This occurs when the production of goods and services gets higher as a result of the cost of production. When the wages of the place are increased or the cost of materials to produce certain goods and services go up, then the goods themselves will have to be raised in price. This is because if they don't, then they'll suffer some loss. Cost push inflation is why goods like food items seems to be rising by the minute. The last category of inflation is called built-in inflation. This one happens when demand pull inflation remains in the economy over time and becomes part of it. If the cost of goods increases in a place and nothing is done to regulate inflation, it could remain that way or get worse over time, and this will lead to built-in inflation. This can lead to people demanding higher wages because their regular ones cannot fend for their basic needs anymore. And this can also lead to cost push inflation.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
Once the wages are increased. You might want to go back over this chapter of this video if you need to. But when you look at inflation, it's a vicious cycle that ravages a nation without mercy. All right, so here we go. Why did the print shop charge more for signs with lowercase letters? Because they're capitalists. Oh, you see? I knew you'd like that one. So we've established that CPI is used to know whether there's inflation in a geographical region. When CPI rises, we can tell that the purchasing power of currency has become lower than it used to be. Let's say that last year with $20 in your hand, you can buy 5 bottles of milk, or 10 empanadas if you were me. But with the same money now, you can only buy 4 bottles of milk, and in my case, I only get to buy 7 empanadas. then you know inflation has taken place. By the way, have empanadas gone up in your area? Let me know in the comments below because this is just getting ridiculous. But there are issues with CPI which make people debate its competence. So I guess it and I have a lot in common, I guess. There are issues raised as suggestions that the market basket is not a good medium for calculating CPI. This is because a typical household doesn't mean every household. So the market basket is a little biased. I'm not saying that the government should go house to house asking people what they buy every time they step into a mall. But for the record, some doggy boots, a doggy t-shirt for Dolly the Husky, and some tearaway pants for myself. But it just shows that the calculation focuses on what the majority consumes, excluding the minority in the process. Product substitution is another reason why I think CPI doesn't do justice to calculating the consumer's purchases. Over time, when goods increase in price, the consumers begin to substitute their pricey goods with their less pricey counterparts. However, since the market is a static thing and not flexible enough to change along with trends, it becomes slightly inaccurate when things change course. This is because, in the process, the consumption of new products is unaccounted for. But that's not the only issue. Changes in quality are also unaccounted for, and this means that the price is all that's focused on. For example, for certain goods, increase in price and quality is not exactly regarded as inflation. And with CPI, these things are not put into consideration and are mostly added to indicate inflation when it is not. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. More than you enjoyed inflation, of course. If you did, let me hear your comments below and share it with your friends in case you think any of them might benefit from knowing what CPI is. In the meantime, check this video about the best used car to buy on a budget that has some sick fetish and that it likes to kill huskies. I mean, go figure. Or if you want to see the next video in this series, check this video right here where I discuss Elon Musk and how he's talking about how there's going to be a severe economic recession.
Code Monkey, Code Monkey.